From the Connections Studio Suites, it's Connections. Connections is relationship radio.
Hello, everybody. It's Melissa Fox, Connection Show, relationship radio with a twist. The twist is that just about everything can be relatable or lead to a relationship. Yeah, look at that, how I did that. You're like, I thought you were going to talk about crazy stuff. No, today we're going to talk about cool books, and we've got a wonderful author with us today, too, Jasmine Guillory. Hello, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I am awesome, and I'm so excited. I love talking to authors. We don't just talk about, their books and whatever, but just it's so much fun because it's like two creative people instead of, well, sometimes I talk to doctors, and, I can lighten them up and loosen them up, but still, long and the short, they're doctors.
Yeah.
But authors are creative people, and you hit the, wow, boom, Creative City with Drunk on Love. Great book. Wow. Just came out a little while ago. Oh, yeah. So tell us a little bit. Now, this is not your first go-round. This is not your first book. But tell us a little bit about the premise of Drunk on Love. And does it relate to anything in your real life, or is it just a fantasy world of Jasmine?
So Drunk on Love is about Margot and Luke. Margot is a co-owner of a small family winery in Napa Valley. She owns it with her brother. And one night she is coming home from a business trip. She goes to her best friend's bar to get a drink. She starts talking to the guy sitting next to her, Luke. They have a great chat. They go back to his place. They have a lovely one-night stand, or so Margot thinks, until she gets to work the next day and finds out that her new employee, who her brother hired when she was out of town, is Luke. And so now she has to deal with being the boss of the guy that she had a one-night stand with. He has to deal with being really attracted to his boss, who has said clearly that nothing else can happen between them. And the rest of the book is the two of them kind of figuring out how to do that.
How to make it work, huh? Yeah, Drunk on Love. I'm only halfway through, so don't spoil it. Okay,
I won't.
I got to put that out. A lot of the viewers are like, "Well, no, seriously.
I won't spoil a thing." Yeah,
enough to give you a taste, as they say, but the rest of it's on you. But so, is this something that came from man? Is your brother own a winery?
No, I have unhappily no one in my family owns a winery. But I do spend a lot of time in Napa Valley. I live not too far away from it. And I have friends who have a house up there. So I spent a good bit of time up there during the pandemic, especially because it was, especially early on, it was a very easy place to distance because there's space outside. The weather was lovely. So you can sort of sit outside and drink wine together. And so that, I think, is part of what inspired me to set a book there. And then once I decided to set a book in Napa, I had lots of ideas for kind of who the main characters would be, where they would spend their time, who their families are, and a lot of it just sort of came from there.
Now, I see in your press release the phrase Black Joy. Do you see this movie maybe being adapted into a Black Hallmark movie? Not a Christmas movie, because they really own that genre. But yeah, wouldn't that be awesome? Have you called Tyler?
I mean, that would be delightful. I would love it if it got adapted into any kind of movie. So let's all keep our fingers crossed.
Ooh, call Tyler Perry. Hello, holler out. Yeah. I'm just saying, Jasmine Guillory right here with us. And the book is called Drunk on Love. And, it's kind of really kind of relates to stuff that does happen in real life. Not necessarily the one night stand part, but, you're attracted to somebody. Next thing you know, at the coffee shop or what have you. And then you go into work and it's the new secretary or whatever, and your boss, and you're like, my God, ugh. It happens. It really does. So, did that ever happen in your real life, Jasmine?
It never has, but I've definitely had friends that have happened to, that has happened to. And so I have taken some inspiration from there.
Gotcha.
But also, things that happen in this book. I mean, I think it deals a lot with kind of work and our relationship with work and burnout. And I think that's something that I know a lot of people have been struggling with, especially over the past few years. So those are also things that I kind of tried to bring into the book.
Now, sidebar, since you brought that up, there's two things going on in the world right now. One of them is y'all need to get back in the workplace. That was after Labor Day. That was the pitch. You know, most big businesses and corporations were like, look, enough. And they're requiring people to come in, say, 3 to 5 days a week. All right. Then you've got the quietly quitting group who just like wandered away from the job in their mind or perhaps in reality. How do you feel about all that going on? How's that fit into what you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that's, that governs our lives, that it's about our relationship with work, right? And, how do you have a work-life balance? How do you, when people do love their jobs, or do love certain parts of their jobs, but also kind of if it dominates your life, what else needs to be important to you? Like, what else do you need to give time to? And what does your boss require of you that is maybe a little unreasonable, right? Like, is it important to be in the office all the time? For some people, yes, but for some people, maybe not. Like, can we have meetings over Zoom? Can we like all be in the office one day a week and not other times? And so I think there've been a lot, especially over the past few years, people have really been kind of trying to think about their relationship with work and how, like, in what ways can we make it better?
Oh, I agree. And now they're forcing, if you will, maybe the word forcing is a little harsh, but it kind of feels that way. But
kind of feels that way, yeah.
These bosses they're not thinking about the fact that for almost 2 years, we didn't have to put gas out. We didn't have to put out money for lunch. We didn't have to dress in work clothes. We didn't have to have our hair did. You know what I mean? They didn't think about any of that. All the money that we actually saved by working from home. They just were like, I got an office, I'm renting here, and nobody's here. The chairs,
Right, and I think and especially in thinking about people who with families, right? If like, can you do your job just as well if you take a break an hour during a day to drop your kids off at work, drop your kids off at school, and then come home, and then you add that time later? A lot of people can, like, I think adding some flexibility to your lives is often a great thing that I think people have really seen, and people are pushing back against bosses who kind of don't see value in that flexibility. And I think that's because the bosses have flexibility. They just don't want their people who work for them to have.
Right. Yeah, it's a do as I say, not as I do kind of a situation. We're talking with Jasmine Guillory. I probably said it wrong then, didn't I? Guillory.
Guillory.
Yeah. We're talking with Jasmine Guillory. I've been butchering so many names this week. It is just I ought to make a living out of mispronouncing things because I think I could. But the book is called Drunk on Love. But I thought we'd share with Jasmine just some opinions and stuff because, again, back to the phrase Black joy. I'd like to have a little joy of any sort. This book is it, okay? I mean, it's a page turner. I was like, what's going to happen next with Luke? Oh.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And so when you decided to get out of did you write this during the pandemic?
I did, yeah.
So that's it. So you got out of your head, but you couldn't get out the house. I understand.
Exactly.
Right. So, okay, some personal questions real quick. You married?
I am not.
Got kids?
No kids.
No kids, no married. Okay, fair enough. So this is steamy material. I'm just going to... Have you ever been to any of those, the romance novel conventions? We have them here in Orlando area.
Oh, yeah, I've been to some. They're very fun.
Aren't they fun? Yeah, I was invited to one a few years back before the pandemic, and they had this male cover model contest or something that had all these steamy guys with long hair and huge oiled chests, and I was like,
yes.
This is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, we got cover ideas. We do.
Yeah.
All right, folks, you're listening to the best show on radio. I'm pretty sure of it.
Absolutely.
Sounds good to me. I'm going to run with it right now. We are sponsored by Pharmacy Specialists. Go to makerx.com. They're compounding pharmacy because no two snowflakes are people. Wait, no two people are alike. We're snowflakes. You know what I'm saying. makerx.com. It's Connection Show. We'll be right back.
Connections is Relationship Radio.
I'm drunk right now, so that kind of stuff amuses me.
Buy me a beer. $2 a glass. Come on, help me, I'm freezing by.
Welcome back. Connection Show. Melissa Fox, 2 X's. Please don't disrespect that second X. Jasmine Guillory with us today. I did it right! Yay!
You got it.
Yay! And she's an author. She's extraordinary. We're really enjoying our conversation here. I hope you are too. She has ushered in, as they say, a new era of rom-com and black joy and cemented herself, it says, as a powerhouse in the romance world. Your first book was The Wedding Date. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had so much fun writing that book. I was writing it while I was working full time, but I looked forward every night to getting home and working on it. And so it was a delight to write, and I am so glad that other people have loved reading it.
How cool. And The Wedding Date sounds pretty much, well, like it's something to do with a date and a wedding, and then, well, don't fill in the blanks for me or anything. Don't help me out, Jasmine. Just leave me hanging. It's cool. No.
Indeed. The Wedding Date is about Alexa and Drew. They meet because they get stuck in an elevator together. Drew is...
Do you need to get that?
Yeah, I hung it up. Drew is in town for his ex-girlfriend's wedding. He is a groomsman, and his date canceled at the last minute. And so he convinces Alexa to be his date to his wedding, and then their relationship goes on.
Sparks fly, as they say,
Exactly.
and things go crazy, all because of a chance meeting in an elevator.
Yes.
I like it. That's cool. I can do that. So tell us a little bit about this Reese Witherspoon book club, huh? Which was that the book that was picked for that?
No, that was the proposal, my second book. That book is about Nick and Carlos. Nick, the beginning of the book is Nick is at a baseball game, a Dodgers game, with her current boyfriend, who proposes to her over the Jumbotron, and she says no.
Oh.
And the crowd is against her. They all boo her. So Carlos helps her get out of the stadium, and then they become friends and a little bit more after that. But yes, that book got picked by Reese Witherspoon's book club, which was a joy for me and for that book. And so I am thrilled people will have discovered it because of Reese.
I just realized I think I've seen you on TV before. Maybe like a morning show, like the Today.
I have been on the
Show?
Today Show a number of times. Yes,
Really?
recommending books.
Dude, what's that like?
It's so much fun. I mean, the first few times I was on, I was super nervous.
Of course.
But everybody on the set is like such a professional and so kind. Like they really help set you at ease. They, tell you kind of everything that's going on. And it really feels like just a great conversation with people who want to know what you think about books. And so I've had a great time going on.
Really? That sounds so cool. I mean, I never get that nod. No, occasionally though, like the BBC will call me and say something like, "Well, with this chicken pox or monkey pox," and then I'm like, I make up something up, and then probably run it across Britain, and everyone believes it. But today's show's never called The Fox. I'm just going to say that. And I also promised I would never call myself that in third person. But alas, things have happened. We're talking with Jasmine Guillory, and she's got a new book. So is this your third, your fourth? Where are we, 10?
This is my 8th book.
8! Okay. I like that, and that's a good number. Now, they're not necessarily serial. They're just rom-com, right?
Indeed, yes. So my first 6 are all sort of interconnected, but you can read them in any order. They all have sort of people who show up in different books. But this book, Drunk on Love, is sort of a brand new book with brand new characters. So I hope that people will love it.
Well, there's no denying it. Yep. So when did you start writing? Tell us your process. Like when did you start? How old were you? Let's go there.
Yeah. I was a lawyer before I was a writer. And so I didn't start writing until I was in my 30s. I had been out of law school for a while. I kind of realized that I was missing having some sort of creative outlet. I had been out of school for a while, and I missed kind of that feeling of learning something brand new. And so I started writing because of that. Like I was looking to kind of have something new to learn to entertain me after work. And then I just fell in love. I had so much fun writing, and then I just kept going from there.
So, tell me the process. First of all, you didn't really write in high school, weren't drawn to it in college. It was all legal stuff, right?
Yeah, I've always been a huge reader. I've always loved to read since I was little. My parents both read all the time, and our house was always full of books. We went to the library all the time. And so I have always been a person that really has been surrounded by books, but it wasn't until much later that I really started writing, that I really kind of, I never thought of myself as a creative person, I think. But then I started writing and realized how much I loved it and how fun it was. Even in the hard times, I felt like I was learning something exciting. And so I have really just kept going.
Wow, your enthusiasm makes you sound like you're 12, maybe 13 years old, the way you come across.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Isn't that great? I don't know, seriously. And some people are like, what do you mean? I think you understood what I meant. I mean, just, your enthusiasm, you just, wow. A lot of people get at a point and they're like, yeah, I turned out another book. Yay me. But no, every book seems like it's a treasure to you and something that almost you birthed it. You know what I mean? Is it like that?
Yeah, and I really want to be excited about every book, right? Like, I feel like I can't, if this is something that I am living with every day for, months, years, and if it's something that I like want to keep talking about, like, I have to be excited to work on it, like to be thrilled to say like, okay, I'm going to work on my book again today. And even like sad to turn it in and to say goodbye to it. Right. I feel like this time, when a book comes out is kind of my last, now I'm kind of, I finished all of my part.
You're in a book hole. You're in a book writer hole. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now I'm just sort of giving it to the world and hope they love it.
So is it ours now?
Had a joyful time with it.
Is it ours now? I mean, does it no longer belong to Jasmine Guillory? Okay.
Yeah, no, I think I feel like
don't cry.
At the beginning, it's very much mine, and before I share it with anyone, or really before, even after, I've shared it with other people, but it's not really a book yet. But now it feels like it's a real book, and it's out there for the rest of the world.
Wow, what a great process. We're talking with Jasmine Guillory, and she's got her 8th book out now, 8th, which is great. What I was thinking, how like it's when you build up to something, whether it's graduating from high school, graduating from college. A lot of us, especially me, I have ADHD, so there's that like, oh my God, what's next? I don't have anything to do. And do you feel that when you release the book?
Oh yes, I feel that every time.
Well, empty.
And sometimes I'm already working on the next thing,
Good.
but also I can't, when I'm like in the midst of releasing a new book and I'm in the promotion and talking about it, I can't work on another thing because I feel like my head has to be in that new book and in those characters.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, you can't be developing another character in your head while you're still trying to explain your enthusiasm for the characters you just birthed in a book. Yeah, no, that makes perfect. That makes sense to me. I mean, a lot of stuff doesn't make sense to me, but that did. If you're just tuning in, this is Connections Relationship Radio. We do this for you live on the internet at random times, and then Thursday nights at 9 o'clock it plays. We have shows that play right here on News Radio WFLA Orlando, but you can always find them on the iHeartRadio app. Just search Connections Show Relationship Radio, or my name, Melissa Fox. Second X is very important, though. Yeah, it's very important. And Jasmine Guillory, where do we get? Do you have a website? Since we're talking about
Absolutely. My website is jasmineguillory.com. And you can also find me on Instagram. I'm Jasmine Pics. And Twitter, I'm the best Jasmine.
Oh, the best Jasmine. Oh, nothing shy about that name there. All right, well, if we're doing that, it is. There it is, Jasmine Pics. The best Jasmine on Twitter. Yeah. Oh, Facebook, Jasmine Guillory Writer. You forgot that one.
Yeah.
Don't forget your
That's
Facebook.
Me.
Yeah, most importantly, the book is called Drunk on Love, one of many books. I scared myself. I just kicked my camera. But there are several, and we're going to talk about that and a lot more, like the writer process, and maybe we'll talk about some more current events. Let me just push this little button right here. Oh, okay. And when we come back, we're going to have more questions for our guest, Jasmine Guillory. Don't forget about pharmacy specialists. They bring the show to you. They are a compounding pharmacy, which means your doctor puts together a prescription, whether it's for HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Whoo, it's getting hot in here. Yeah, makerx.com. Check it out and let them know that you heard about them on Connections.
Connections is Relationship Radio. This is Connections.
I know him. He wants to be able to have his cake and not eat me. It. Objection, move to strike.
Thank you. Could you strike that, please? Wow, you're going to get me in trouble. Welcome back to Connections. Melissa Fox and my special guest, Jasmine Guillory. Feel like we're good friends now already. Just gotten to know. I'm serious. I mean, she's single. She doesn't have any kids. But she has a lot of going on stuff, right? 8 books. The new one's called Drunk on Love. What's the process? How long? I mean, how do you do it? You shut the windows and leave me alone and type?
I feel like my process is a little bit different for every book. For this one, actually, I wrote the entire first draft by hand, which this was also my longest book. I feel my wrists were very unhappy with me by the end of it because then I had to type the whole thing up. Sure. But I feel like it kind of changes for each book. For me, the typing it up process really helped me really think about what I had written, what I kept sort of repeating to myself over and over again. And that, made me realize that's what I'm really writing about. Okay. And dive into specific themes and specific characters a little bit more. Made me realize that certain scenes that I had written that I really loved weren't really part of the story and I needed to get rid of. So I think, each one is a little different. I think the main thing that I try to do is work on it at least a little bit every day. So, with some books, I've written the first draft really fast and then my revision process was slow. With this book, it was kind of the opposite. The writing the first draft was really slow and then the revision was actually relatively quick. Wow. But I think it just kind of depends on how the book itself is going and whatever's going on in the world at the time and with me.
So I know some people, especially when we're doing film or short stories, short films, whatever, I don't necessarily know about books, but do you write like a one-page, a treatment as they call it? This is the setup, what's going to happen in, the meat and then the close?
So I always start with some sort of outline. I often kind of know the beginning and a little bit more kind of detail about the character. So actually every book that I start usually starts out with a note on my phone where I start kind of brainstorming to myself specific things about the characters, the beginning, kind of, there are always scenes that I have in my head from later in the book. And then once I have enough of that, I kind of write it down kind of in order, write, what I've got, kind of put it in the right places. Yeah. But a lot of times there's usually big holes in there, but there's always a point where I feel like, okay, I can start writing now. And I'll figure that out later. And then, so I start writing and then figure out stuff kind of as I go along. I will realize okay, there needs to be a scene, after this, but before this, and I will sort of jot down little ideas and then figure out a lot of stuff. So there's some things that I don't realize about the book until kind of towards the end, and then I go back and fix it. Some things that I know at the beginning and then helps determine the rest of the book. So I think it really helps to give myself sort of cut myself a little slack as I keep working on it, because I know some of it I won't figure out until the end, and that's okay, even though every single time I think, oh no, I don't know what's going on. How am I going to figure it out? And usually, fingers crossed, I do.
Wow. So, okay, let's take it to the next step. All right, you wrote it down by hand or not. You had it outlined, and then, you put the pieces together, you filled in the blanks, you threw out a little bit of this because it didn't quite work or what have you. What kind of research are you doing on your development for your characters or for the backdrop, like Napa Valley?
Yeah, so with this book, I'd been to Napa Valley a number of times. I live not too far away. And so there was a lot that I already knew. Like I knew kind of the geography and what it's like to visit a winery, but I didn't know what it was like on the other side. So I did a number of winery visits where I like asked a bunch of questions to the people working there, to the owners. I had, some meetings and phone calls with people who run wineries to kind of ask about the behind the scenes stuff, how a lot of stuff works. People were really generous with me with their time. And so that was also very helpful and really helped inform a lot of the kind of the small details of the book. So that, that kind of research, I definitely spend a lot of time with.
Yeah, I would think you'd have to, because the last thing you want with somebody in the wine industry go, that's not even close. What are they talking about?
I know. I never want that to happen.
Right. But on that note, though, okay, so now you've got your characters developed, you put it all together, you figured it out, page 1 all the way to the end, you hand it off to an editor, right? And then...
Yes, although I do a ton of revision on my own before I hand it to my editor. Like my first drafts are usually very messy. I'm, kind of figuring out the characters as I go along in the first draft. And so I spend, I usually don't really give it to my editor until at least the 4th or 5th draft. And then I send it off to her, and it's good and that also means that I get kind of a break from the book, because it has been in my head for so long that sometimes you can't really see the forest for the trees, right? And so then I send it off to my editor, and while she reads it, I can focus on something else or, take a break or throw myself back into a different book or something. And so then when her edits come back to me, I can kind of look at the book with fresh eyes.
Right, makes sense. Now, have you ever been offended by an editor who went, oh, that's ridiculous, it needs to be in the story?
Sometimes, but often that's the first reaction. And then a few days later, I'm like, okay, well, maybe they were right. So it often takes, I find that it helps to like read the edits, take a few days before I, to really think about them, and then go back to them and think. And sometimes, their suggestion on what to do differently is wrong, but they're right that there's something that you have to do differently.
Their
right?
suggestion is wrong.
Yeah. I mean, well, because it's usually that, it's often that it's like, oh, instead of this scene, you should have a scene that, XYZ happens. I don't want to do that, but they're right that scene that they wanted to cut it needs to be cut, you know? And so it's thinking like, why did they want to cut that? Why did they want this scene? Okay, well, maybe I can write something different that reflects those same things.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of back and forth in a good editing process, I find. So sometimes my edits will go back to my editor with like, I know you want me to do this. I didn't, but I did this instead. What do you think? And then there's often like, oh, okay, yes, this is right. Or like, oh, yes, I like this scene, but what if you do this? And so I feel like any good relationship with an editor has a lot of discussion and back and forth.
About how many back and forths with the editor do you have before you go, that's it? That's it?
I mean, it's usually like 2.
That's not bad.
I find like, she will give me a sort of list of edits. I will go back to her and often we will talk through the edits before I dive in. So that will usually help too. Because having those conversations really, because I will ask questions like, okay, well, why did you think this? What do you think about doing this instead? And so that often really helps to kind of because sometimes they will write things down, but then really like both of us thinking through them and talking about them together really helps me to understand, oh, okay, now I know what I'm going to do.
Right.
And
so
so
you guys kind of
having those conversations really makes a big difference.
It does. We're talking with Jasmine Guillory. You can go to JasmineGuillory.com, or you can follow her on Insta, Jasmine Pics, Twitter, The Best Jasmine, or Facebook, Jasmine Guillory Writer. The newest book, the latest book is Drunk on Love. There's The Wedding Day. There's a bunch of different books out. This is 8 novels and 4 years, and only 4 years. What are you doing? What are you doing? You must not even leave the house. Come on now.
Well, I mean, I will say, like, the 8 novels have come out in 4 years, but
okay.
the first 2 I wrote long before they started coming out, right? Publishing kind of has a
I got
long
you.
life before a book comes out, and
okay.
so
I got you.
so there was a bunch of work
It's like
that
then they
started
say,
before the wedding date hit the shelves.
overnight sensation. And you're like, no, I've been working at this for a minute, thanks. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. This is Connection Show. Melissa Fox and special guest Jasmine Guillory. And all that, what I just said. Yeah, very important.
Connections is Relationship Radio.
This is a test. We'll be conducting a test for the emergency broadcasting. Remember, this is only a test.
This is an amazing set of highballs.
I agree.
It's Connections.
Wow, welcome back.
Welcome back. It's Connection Show. Find replays, podcasts, whatever you want to call them, on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You'll like this one. You want to go back because we know we have a lot of wannabe writers in the house, people who just have put pen to paper and then they don't know what to do next. So I got stories, I got stuff written down, but here's someone who's actually made it happen. Not only that, but Jasmine Guillory is so important in the writing world that she's been on the Today Show actually recommending books. How's that work out, right? Welcome back, sweetie. We're having a good time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm actually having a really good time. I appreciate that. The book is called Drunk on Love. It's set in the Napa Valley. It is a black joy rom-com. Tyler Perry, if you're listening, I'm saying you might want to pick this up, okay? There's no Medea in it, but you can make this happen. Oh, man, I'm trying to think. Who would you have play the lead, Luke? Do you have any ideas? If you were to put
I don't, but if you have any great ideas,
seriously? Oh my God! Well, he's younger, right? So he's
a little bit younger. Yeah,
he's a little younger. There's a lot out there that's looking good. That I'm thinking. I've got a lot of pretty bodies in my mind right now.
Yeah.
Wow! I got to get back. Hello. Woo! Again, pharmacy specialist. I'm just saying it might be a hot flash, but it's warming here all of a sudden. Check out makerx.com and jasmineguillory.com as well. So we're talking about Luke for just a second in the Drunk on Love. And Luke is, the way you've described him, isn't he kind of a tall, lanky kind of looking, yeah?
Kind of tall, lanky, a little nerdy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to put a face to it. Glasses or no glasses? Just nerdy.
Glasses, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
I got a lot of people. I can't put a name on anybody yet, but I got a few people I'm thinking would do very good in that role. What about in what's it? Monica? No, what's her name? Now I've lost the name of the lead gal. What is her name? Monica? No.
Margot.
Margot. There it is. I knew it was an M. So what about who are you thinking for her? Right? Mm-hmm. She's a little older, right?
Yeah. Margot. I feel like maybe Tessa Thompson.
Oh,
I think she's great. Yeah.
Handle that.
But there's so many. I feel like that who could be great at that.
Yeah,
so
we're already casting
if
this.
your listeners have any ideas, tell them to send them to us.
Well, at this point, we're casting a movie that hasn't even been screenwritten.
I know,
yet.
exactly.
But that's fun. It's Connection Show.
It's always fun.
Right. It's Relationship Radio. And right now, we're actually talking about a lot of goofiness. But the real meat of it is, Jasmine, you are a lawyer. And now you're like, I need to outlet. And you found that outlet by writing rom-coms. And now you are on your 8th release in 4 years. That's air quotes. So now that you've birthed this baby, and I know you're doing the tour, so there's no time for you to be looking ahead yet, but you got anything scratched down on a pad somewhere?
I'm in the very early stages of the next book. So let's all keep our fingers crossed that it turns out to be what I want it to be, but yes, I'm starting to work on it. So any other writers out there who are in the early stages of the book, I know exactly how that feels. Let's all keep going.
I hear you. Give me 2 seconds here. I actually work on a news station, and the Queen has passed away.
Oh, she has?
Yeah,
Oh.
so give me just 2 seconds to make sure my boss is on it. And you two here as well. I know you have another show, but we got like 6 or 8 minutes left. So hang on a second. I don't know if here we go. Hey, boss, are we taking this news about the Queen dying? Question mark. Anyway, okay. So here we go. So anyway, with Drunk on Love, though, the first book, you said it's a new series. Does that mean there will be more?
I think so. So yes, I think there will be more about other people in who you meet in Drunk on Love, but we'll see.
Oh, okay. So maybe like a spinoff.
Maybe a little bit of a spinoff.
Okay, good. I like that. That's cool stuff. Plus, when you paint a room literally in your book, when you present, man, I felt like I was there. And there was a couple of scenes that I was reading, and I was just like, I can actually picture the place. And it may not exist, but in my mind, I know that this whole winery, the vineyard, the whole very good stuff.
Well, thank you so much. I really do paint it in my mind, and I know exactly where everything is. So I'm so glad that came out on the page.
It really does translate. Folks, if you haven't checked out any of Jasmine Guillory's work yet after this show, you better get to it. First of all, she's given you great information if you are thinking about becoming an author, or if you have a book that you're working on. Just the enthusiasm alone that you hear from Jasmine, it makes me want to go and write. And frankly, I talk for a living, so I probably 3 words have gone. I don't even remember what they were. But yeah. So anyway, you're great. I love talking to you. I'm really enjoying this. Now, you're in California right now?
I am. I'm in California. Yeah, Northern California.
Did they force you to buy an electric car?
Not yet.
Okay, because there's a little confusion there. You have to all buy an electric car, but hey, don't use too much electricity.
Yeah. Well, my car is currently paid off, so I'm hopefully not have to buy another car anytime soon. But let's all knock on wood about that.
Hey, what drew you to the law business, by the way?
I started wanting to be a lawyer when I was a kid. I had a teacher who really inspired me when I was young, and I have always loved law and politics and have found it really interesting. And so I kind of started on that path a long time ago.
Wow. Interesting. And a lot of people don't make it all the way. So just becoming a lawyer, all the schooling, all of that crazy work and stuff that you got to jam into your head to remember. I commend you for that one. And then becoming a writer with all that extra room in your brain. You have time. Yeah, you're able to create characters, and not just 1 or 2, but a whole bunch of them.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, it's really cool, and I'm really glad that you're able to come on the show and talk with us. So, there's one of my friends who's listening right now. His name's Tony, and he just wrote me a text. He said, "Is she single?" I know she's on the other coast, Tony. She said she was single. Okay, so if you get some strange DM from a guy,
I appreciate that.
Right? I'm just gonna say, if you get a strange DM, it's my friend Tony. He's a comedian. He thinks he does it for a living. He actually is kind of funny. So he's like, I'm willing to commute. This is crazy. It's relationship radio, but it isn't, marriage-minded women, okay? Let's just put it that way. You ever seen that on the cable TV? You're flipping in the middle of the night, and it's like, she is a marriage-minded woman. Meanwhile, she has a doctorate, and she doesn't really want to marry you. Trust me. All right, Drunk on Love. Beautiful. Hey, who did the cover work? That's some sassy stuff there. Sassy.
Oh my goodness, I love the cover so much. The cover design is all due to the incredible artists at my publisher, and I'm just thrilled with them. I am not a design person, so we always have conversations early on where I'm like, something like bright and fun, and I give them like a random collection of adjectives and nouns, and then they just come up with something perfect, and that's exactly what happened this time. I just really love it, and I'm thrilled with the cover.
I thought it was very sexy. Matter of fact, I laid it around at the office while I was reading it here. What are you reading? What is it? Wait, what is it? I'm like, it's mine. You have it when I'm done. So I finally brought it home because I was like, I had a feeling I'm going to come in, I'm going to get halfway through the book, and one day it's just not going to be there. Well, I work in radio. Anything that's laying around is fair game, I guess, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I'm done with it, I'm going to drop it back and let somebody pick it up and take it because that's how it works. But Jasmine Guillory has been with us, and she's awesome. You're awesome. I want you to come back when you do your next book, okay? 9, maybe
Thank
10.
you.
When you're on 13, for sure. Okay. All right.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. That'll be like 4 years. No, you come back on your 9, number 9. Number 9. All right.
All
And
right,
if you
I'll
should,
try. Yeah.
and if you come down here to convention in Orlando for that steamy convention we talked about, call me. Let's hang out.
I will, absolutely.
Because
We'll
that'll
get
be
drinks.
yeah, heck yeah. Oh, now she's talking. Now she has said the words. All right, you guys, we got to wrap this up. It's been a lot of fun, Jasmine. I really enjoyed talking with you off the cuff. It's been
Such
good.
a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You got it. Check out her book, Drunk on Love, or just go to JasmineGuillory.com. All the information you need is right there. I got to push this button now so we can say goodbye. Thanks for listening. Love ya. Mean it.
Laughing time is over.
There you have it, boys. Case closed.
You've been listening to Connections.
All right, that was it. Thanks, guys. Hold on. Yeah, you're there. You're still there. You can talk.
Thank you so much.